Hello, if you're new here, I'm Tortor and I'm a stop motion animator. I'm also pretty good with a bit of clay, very hands-on person. And in this tutorial, I'm showing you how I made my Mr. Link. Now, this is new plast clay. It's the same clay that Aardman use. It's a really good plasticine. You can get it in lots of colours. Now, the first thing I wanted to do was looking at the character. He has fur that's in multiple shades of kind of reddy oranges, yellows. So I needed to make lots of different shades of a similar colour. So my first job was to mix the clay. So I took different amounts of different colours and I mixed various balls of different shades of this kind of orangey red colour for his fur. Then I went on to make the inner core of my character. And I wanted this to look interesting when I pulled it apart because the whole point was I was going to animate this. So I put yellow in the middle and a bit of white near the head, and then I put just this dark brown over because I didn't want any of that yellow to show through beneath the fur, so this was just kind of a base layer to cover that up. As you can see, I'm making two here. I was concerned that because I was going to destroy this, that I would be a bit upset because it was going to take a long time to make. So instead, I decided to make two simultaneously so I'd be able to keep one and then also destroy one. Now, a really good tip if you have got different coloured clay and you don't want to get that on each other, you want to keep the colours separate, use baby wipes. They're really good at getting that off. Just wipe them on your hands and I find that does the job really well. Next, what I wanted to do was start making the fur. That was going to be the most time-consuming part. So to do that, I was using all these different brown colours and I was making really thin sausages. So I was like rolling these tiny little thin pieces, and the idea was that I was going to assemble fur using these little tiny sausages side by side. So each kind of fragment of fur involved 5 little sausages, and I tried to vary the colours that I used. I put these together to make little tiny fur strips, as you can see here, and then I made the end kind of taper in like a triangular shape, and then these were going to be layered up on the body to create the layers of fur. Now, I made some of different colours. The underneath ones have less yellow in, some have got a bright yellow, others have more of like a yellow ochre, just to give variety and to not make it look too kind of similar. Now, to put these down on the character, I literally just laid them down, put a little bit of pressure on the top edge just to make sure they were stuck. It was kind of like building a wall, like laying bricks. I alternated, so the second layer went in the gaps above the first layer and so on, just to create even layers and to give a kind of illusion of natural fur. And what I was doing was just kind of pulling the ends up slightly just to kind of give that kind of texture as well. And now, because I have covered half of him with fur, I thought it was good to put a kind of base face shape down because a lot of his fur tucks underneath his face. So I just made a flesh colour and then I made this very basic shape that I just lightly placed onto the character's head so that I could tuck more fur underneath to start doing the fur around the face, which I knew would be quite challenging. It wasn't too difficult, but I felt like this was a good method for making it as neat as possible. So here you can see it looks a bit like bacon. I've laid out lots of fur. I was doing lots at the same time to try and save time, make it as efficient as possible, and I just used a little T-pin to cut them in half. So each strand was making 2 pieces of fur, and then I used scissors just to neaten the ends if there was the odd sausage that was a bit too long. And then I'm just laying them around the head of the character, flattening them down, and like I said, tucking their end underneath this face shape so that it looked as neat as possible. This did take quite a long time, guys. The fur took forever to make, but I think it's worth it. You can see that this is looking really nice, and I think that the effort is appreciated there. There's still some more to go, so I kept making more fur. I had to have several breaks because my back was hurting, but I got there in the end, and he's now all covered. And the next step was to make his nose. Now, he has quite a iconic nose shape, so I mixed some different pinks for this and just plonk that on. Now you can see this is the second character that I was making, and this is how I put the teeth in. I just sculpted the teeth out of white clay and then I just popped them in one by one, tried to get them in a rough shape, and then I had made a little tongue which was brown clay, and then I added a bit of pink to it, put that in the middle, and then just to make things really neat, I did a sausage of the flesh colour and I added that on top to just make those teeth be a little bit set back in the mouth. Now here you can see the second nose and actually how I made it. So I had that middle section of the darker pink, and then I made a sausage of lighter pink, and I just wrapped that around to make an edge and to make the piece in the middle, and then I smoothed that with my fingers just to make that look neat. and then place that on. And for the eyes, there's a little bit of detail. He has a brow and he has these kind of little bags under his eyes. So I just used the flesh colour and I just made little tiny pieces and I smoothed those down with my T-pin or my finger where I could get my finger. And then for the eyes, just white circles and then brown circles and black circles. It's very fiddly, but you will get there. And this is the finished looking character. As you can see, there's two of them. This is how they both looked, and it was now deciding which one to destroy for the animation. I decided to destroy the one on the left because I kind of preferred the one on the right and I wanted to keep that one. But yeah, if you enjoyed this tutorial of how I sculpted Mr. Link, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give this video a big like. If you want to see how I animated it or you wanted to see the finished film, both of those will be linked at the end as well, so make sure that you check those out.